Welcome to another new Pokemon Draft League analysis where we cover popular Pokemon used in the format. So today, we'll be covering one of the most popular Pokemon in all of competitive Pokemon, and that is Mr. Landorus-T right here. So Mr. Hovercat himself, or Ground Cat, or Genie as you like to call him, even though he's not a genie, he's a tiger slash jaguar slash something. I don't know. Let's just call him a tiger. So looking at his Poké Bio, so you see his massive 145 attack right there. It's protruding all over his other stats. All his other stats are hovering around base, like at least around the base 90s around there. Um, Bulk is somewhat above average, or okay, especially when you consider that it has Intimidate. Then again, I think Landorus is a he, so yeah, that's nice. It is ground flying, which is a very good defensive typing if you think about it. It's only weak to water and ice, which they're plentiful, and that quad ice weakness is kind of bad. But when you think about it, it is immune to two of the most common types in the game, in electric and ground. You can come onto them. You're also resistant to fighting, which is really nice now. So, given there's a lot of fighting types, and also bug and poison Pokemon. So poisons obviously don't want to deal with Landorus. So that massive attack stat, because you already know with a ground type like this, you already know what attack it's gonna have. So its speed is somewhat okay, but we'll get to that in a bit. Um, so for people who wondering why use Landorus with all of its like its base attacks being somewhat average, well, basically it's because it's the best ground type in the game. Except for maybe Primal Ground on or something else I'm forgetting, but still. Beside that, Landorus-T is just basically the best ground type. And it's extremely versatile. So, I mean, when you have a 145 attack stat with strong stabs like Earthquake, even like coverage like Stone Edge, Fly, U-Turn, and like Knockoff with utility, it just makes it really strong, really powerful and strong to use, and easy to spam. And not only that, with Gen 7, transitioning from like Gen 6 to Gen 7, I think has benefited Landorus even more. With access to some of the strongest Z move options in the game, and with obviously Z Fly, Z like Earthquake, and Z like Stone Edge, and then you have the option to power them up. And as I mentioned, you have also wide coverage support options like Knockoff, U-Turn, so that alone is pretty amazing if you ask me. So, and then it's, like as I mentioned, great defensive typing with access to Intimidate. So, and your bulk pretty much gets like, especially on the physical side, is just gonna get like compounded, especially with the Intimidate. So, and with this, it just performs a variety of roles for your team, which is whether it's offensive, support, defensive roles, and then and not only that, it has access to moves like Stealth Rocks, U-Turn, and well, I didn't even mention U-Turn, but Defog as well. So, obviously, both having access to both Stealth Rock and Defog is pretty nice on a Pokemon that can already be extremely it already has a high ceiling with its offensive potential, and it has this it could also support a team with like Rocks and Defog, and then you have access to Sword Stance, Bulk Up, and Rock Polish to top it all off. So this thing could also sweep as well. So, and wide variety of sets. You could use whatever set you want, and it would just still work, which is amazing. So, Toy Scarf, Z Crystal, of course, with as I mentioned, Z Fly is just really strong in tandem with Earthquake, because very few things could want to switch into that. So, and you just and with defensive sets, you would run like Rocky Helmet or 50% Berry. So, and it's just very strong enough. It's powerful enough to the point where you have to scout for this thing, and if you don't properly scout for this thing, it's just gonna pretty much just you alive, or literally, if you think about it. It could just win games by itself if played incorrectly. So, as I mentioned before, with roles and uses, it's a physical attacker for the most part. It could be a wall breaker, defensive pivot, and you could also use this as an offensive Z move user. It also is a great choice item user as well, as we'll explain, with either Choice Band and Choice Scarf, but mostly Choice Scarf. And lastly, with access to Sword Stance and like and Rock Polish, forgot right there. So you could just like win the games right then and there. So with coverage, you already have some of the strongest options like Earthquake, Stone Edge, like Fly, Stealth Rock, Sword Stance, Rock Slide, U-Turn. I'm just listing all this stuff. There's other options you have. Like you even run Special Landorus because it's base 105 special attack is pretty usable and it has okay special coverage even. Maybe it's sometimes questionable, but you know it could work. So and you have access to stuff like Explosion. So you're not out of the woods dealing with Landorus. It could just SD and just go boom. So for items, again, like you could always use Sea Crystals and Rocky Helmet, Leftovers, 50% Berry, Scarfs, like choice items and whatnot. So for like draft selection, when you want to select this thing, you pretty much want to like if it's available, consider grabbing it just right then and there. It's an amazing ground type and a good Pokemon to use in draft league, in general and really. So, and if you're gonna actually if it falls below round 2, just get it. I mean, it's a good steal if you ask me. So yeah. Now, the first set we'll go over is basically Offensive Z. Now, Offensive Z is pretty interesting because, again, like this is probably the most like flexible of all the sets, which is kind of ridiculous if you ask me. But like, it's kind of it's just funny because like, yes, it's like the same. It's like there's a kind of a one size fits all, but it works very effectively. So this pretty much acts as a wall breaker, hazard lead, and also like a potential like a pivot option as well if you want to if you put U-turn as well over like Sword Stance. So now the goal of the set is pretty much just having either one of Flynium, Groundium, or like Rockium, having either Fly, Earthquake, Stone Edge be powered up with their Z-move variants, and then just having, let's say, a Sword Stance boost to take out like a key threat. Let's say you want to take out like a Slowbro, you want to take out a Venusaur, you just go for Tech Rage, especially if you get the +2. Or you want to take out Skarmory, you go for Rockium Z, Stone Edge. So yeah, that's pretty much what you want to do with Landorus. And that's the thing, very few Pokemon will take a combination of either +2 Flynium Z Fly or an Earthquake, or one of the two. Like, especially when you're in a format where like everything is like, like everyone's like drafting like proper checks and counters to Landorus. And if they don't have the right answers for Landorus at all, you're just gonna get a free kill or just gonna get momentum. And speaking of that, like it is a great stealth rocker if you ask me, because like it just provides so much offensive pressure that sometimes you could just like they just switch out, and this is what you need. You just get rocks up. You could also like run U-turn, and again with said offensive pressure, you could just go for U-turn, just get in another partner for free. So, and if you're running Groundium Z, or most stealth rocks, you can always run like U-turn or knockoff. The choice is yours in that regard. So other options you could run are like bulk up if you really feel like setting up your defense as well. Explosion if you want to like ensure that like rocks are up. That's probably like similar to the common like Landorus said, like Smogon or for hyper offensive teams. But you could also have superpower if you want to hit like normal types, smack down, hit something like a Celesteela down, just hit them with Earthquake. Then Rock Slide, because Rock Slide on Landorus is fun, so especially those who play VGC. So yeah, second set's pretty common. Defensive Landorus is a great pivot against more physical attackers, like let's say Mega Lopunny and Heracross. If you want to like have something to deal with them, this is like your set. So you could just have like Intimidate and plus U-turn, just to be able to intimidate spam, just U-turn, get a slow pivot into a Pokemon you need to. So Stealth Rocks, you can run either Stealth Rocks or Defog depending on the situation. This could be your not offensive, but like sort of like a pivot option. You could just set up rocks, or then just U-turn out, or you could just defog like potential hazards, like let's say spikes, since Landorus is immune to like spikes, anti-spikes, and webs. So that's really nice on that end. So. And the thing about Landorus is that it still has a ridiculously high 145 attack, so you can still spam Earthquake to your avail. So, and it's still gonna hit really hard. So, and enough to do it just major chip damage. So again, as I mentioned, you could get like little pivot options with U-turn, or if they switch out, you could just pivot into a good mon for free. So if you can, so and or you could just run knockoff. And then if you and even the item choice is pretty flexible. You could either go with like 50% berries, like Aguav, like Mago. I don't think Wiggy because that's like a minus special attack nature, and that makes you confused. So I think you want to try Aguav, Ayapapa. I'm trying to think Mago and Figgy Berry for sure. So just don't run a Wiki Berry if you're like minus special attack. So then you have like Rocky Helmet, of course, just to get chip damage on something like Lopunny. So and other options you can run is obviously Toxic, Yachi Berry if you want to take an ice move, Rock Tomb if you want to reduce their opponent's speed, and then like Assault Vest if you're that's only if you really want to like be very defensive on both ends, on special and the physical. But on that end, you probably want to be offensive. So and then also you can run like Rock Slide. So for a third set, it's pretty much a choice user. So this set could be pretty much like either a choice Scarfer or like a choice band, depending on what you feel is the most comfortable with your team. Now for this set, I'll be talking about mostly choice Scarf. So and I think it's pretty easy to understand why, because when you have a mon that's really fast and can have like 145 attack with one of the strongest moves in the game, it's pretty easy to figure out why, like, if you're just spamming Earthquake, that could just be a win con of itself. Like, if your opponent has no ground type switch-ins or no resistances, then that means, and if they're weakened, then Landorus can just come in and just sweep. So just keep in mind that. So Jolly Nature, as you see, is pretty sometimes mandatory. Depending on whether you want to outspeed like certain like base 80s, like let's say Nidoking, if it's Scarf. So or let's say something like I'm trying to think off my top of my head. So base 90s. So also Escadrille, yeah, there's another one. That's why I remember that. So it doesn't outspeed Escadrille in Sand, so that's unfortunate, but we'll get to that in a bit. So but having an actual speed of 163 is pretty nice because you're outspeeding mons like Zeraora. So that's pretty good. So, and again, like Quick Edge is pretty nice because it makes a strong offensive, like that's already a strong like coverage option right there. So you can also run Rock Slide in tandem for if you need like if you want to flinch stuff down, and also if you need more consistency because Stone Edge can often miss. So U-turn and knockoff like are pretty much the other two options you'd see with Scarf Landorus or Scarf Band Landorus, just for pivoting or just removing items in general. Explosion's pretty nice, since especially if you need that extra oomph or extra power, or momentum in general, just to like take down something like a Venusaur or like how do I say it, Slowbro. I know I mentioned those two mons, or something like an Arcanine. It's like you're not gonna kill it, but at least you're just gonna like explode on it. So Choice Band's pretty nice again because like you don't have to like set up with Sword Stance, but at least you can just start spamming Earthquake or just going U-turns. You can start going for U-turns or like strong Stone Edges right off the bat. So that's pretty okay. And not only that, if they try to intimidate you down, like at least like you could just try to you could just get the easy kill right there. So for other options, you could try Toxic just to wear down certain mons like defensive threats. Rock Slide is pretty nice again, as I mentioned. Has more accuracy, can flinch. Stealth Rocks, Defog can be nice as well. And Superpower is okay for normal types like Snorlax, Chansey. And then Punishment's pretty much there just because it's another option in case you're facing, let's say, a Calm Mind user. So pretty nice. And then you have Double Dance, which is pretty much one of the most feared Landorus-T sets. And if you let this thing set up a Double Dance, you're pretty much dead. So because with Sword Stance and like Rock like Polish, you're gonna get the +2 attack, +2 speed. Of course, this requires that you take 2 turns to set up, but if you allow your opponent to set this up for free, basically, then or just let him set up with a good amount of HP left over to the point where you can't revenge kill it, it's pretty much game. So essentially speaking, you could either want to run Earthquake, Stone Edge, or either Earthquake versus or Fly, with one of the three being like the Z move or the respective Z crystal. So just try to keep clear of like this is sort of an end game Pokemon, so try to keep clear of like any threats that Landorus is weak to, or just like just come in when like Landorus is ready, so to sweep. So Max Speed Jolly just actually allows Landorus to outspeed like like an F ton of like of Scarfers, like base 100s like or 95s, like Scarf Kira, or even something like a weather boosted like or weather plus two like Kingdra or Excadrill, with Swift Swim and Sandrush respectively. So if you get a Rock Polish up, you actually outspeed them with your Jolly nature, which is pretty dumb if you ask me. So, and you can always have your Z move ready just if in case you want to break down something really, or just take out a target. So, like I think +2 Z Fly does against those like a regular Zapdos that's like defensive, fully defensive, does like around 70%. And that's still like a lot of damage, and that's if they're coming in on rocks. So then again, they don't want to like. Then again, that's probably a losing play right there. But still, that's still a lot of damage. So, and also like you could also move alternate item choices like between Z moves. Like you try to run, let's say, Agua Berry just for recovery, leftovers as well, or even something like Earth Plate because you could just have a little bit more extra power just to boost up your stabs option, or even like E-Belt as well. So that's all I have for Landorus. For Double Dance, just pretty much it's a great win con if you think about it. Like you don't have to. One thing is like you don't have to go for the sweep. You could either just go for Rock Polish or Swords Dance depending on the situation. So like let's say like if your opponent is already like has their entire team weakened already, you could just go for Rock Polish and go for game right there. But if you need like Swords Dance and everything's slow, like you just go for Swords Dance and you go for the game. So pretty simple as that. So then you have Special Tiger, so which is our it's a weird Landorus test set, sort of akin to like special regular Landorus with Sheer Force, but the difference is this thing has Intimidate and can actually pivot around. So, well then again, it's the same thing. So whatever. Basically, it's more so a lore set to kill more like physically defensive Pokemon, with the combination of power plus hidden power ice, since it's pretty like perfect coverage right then and there. So, it is somewhat inferior to like the physical sets, but there are some situations where you might want to consider like Landorus-T, like let's say facing a Tapu Bulu. Well, you could have like Sludge Wave or Sludge Bomb just to like kill Bulu right there. Just to be more consistent, unless aside having to rely on Fly, so or Z Fly, try to predict that. So you can also have access to Grass Knot, which is kind of a pretty good option if you ask me, because it actually hits like really bulky waters and ground types for good damage, especially if you have Life Orb and you have Calm Mind boost. And speaking of Calm Mind, you could actually make use of Calm Mind Landorus, which is pretty dumb because it already has a good special attack, or an okay special attack if you ask me. So if you boost that up, mostly special attack, you can just like further like get those possible how to say it, those possible two shots. You could also try Rock Polish if you really want to. So you could also try like having Naive or Rash nature, like sort of like a defense lower nature in case, or even a positive nature for your special attack like Modest or Rash, just to like ensure that like certain Okos, or you could just run like Rock Polish just to set up and sweep, but a special Landorus-T. So, you could also try some moves like Gravity, Smackdown, or you could be like mixed Landorus as well. But so that's another thing about this thing, because like it's a good possible mixed attacker if you want to try it out. So now for partners and teammates, it's pretty safe to say that like water types are Landorus's best friends, even though it's its worst enemy. So because they actually can handle most water types and ice type Pokemon specifically. So having something that's like kind of either a wall breaker or a defensive mon, like say like Keldeo. Like Keldeo appreciates Landorus because Landorus can just threaten Of course, these guys like Landorus because they threaten like the grass types, but also the fact that it can actually have Z-Fly just kill the the grass type Pokemon. So, and these things can also hold their own against some water types as well. So, and as well as mostly ice types. And steel types are pretty much the same. Like take on ice types, and Landorus can deal with like with the fire type Pokemon. So, and also fighting if it has Z-Fly. So yeah, electric types are pretty nice as well. Landorus, I mean, it can actually take on some ground types, but it depends on the set. But but it has access to Intimidate. It can also, it's more notable. It's taking in mind that these like electrics and Landorus just form a good Volt-turn partner because Landorus can Intimidate spam and U-turn to set electric type and they can Volt switch. So yeah, then you have grass types. Pretty self-explanatory, being able to deal with water type Pokemon. So they don't like dealing with ice types, so keep that in mind. So then you have fairy types. Now fairy types actually like Landorus just because Landorus just deals with steals and like poisons pretty well. Like, I mean, when you could just spam Earthquake with a base 145 move against steel types, which like steel, wind, poison types that very like those fairy types like are gonna like Landorus for sure. Especially the more offensive oriented ones, like let's say Primarina, Gardevoir, and Togekiss. Like the cleric ones are pretty nice as well, which we'll get to. So, and then lastly, fire types. It's pretty self-explanatory because Landorus can deal with like rock type Pokemon that like Charex, like Darm and Incineroar don't want to deal with. It has access to Intimidate, so it could intimidate down ground types or just threaten them. And it has access to Defog, so or Hazard, so it could Hazard support Mon for these guys in general. So then you have Cleric support because pretty obvious. Landorus doesn't want to get burned, so and defensive Mons in general since they could just chip down stuff so that Landorus can just come in and sweep or just be a good pivot, defensive pivot in general. Speaking of defensive pivots and whatnot, so like Pokemon that have like U-turn, Volt Switch, slow pivot options or fast pivot options are really good partners for Landorus. So pretty much like anything with Volt Switch, Volt Turn, like U-turn, or even Party Shots for well, and Baton Pass. So as you said, it's just make Landorus' life better because with adding of spikes and rocks and possible screens as well, if you're like Klefki, you just make a possible Landorus sleep very possible. So and pretty effective, and just get certain like you can just inflict certain like or just get like 2-hit kills pretty easily if you just spike up against your opponent. So and just keep like and the fact that you have U-turn as well, you can just always keep constantly pressuring your opponent and just keep like switching in and out and just get racking into those that like spikes and rocks damage. So yeah, wall breaks are pretty nice too because one thing that Landorus is also a pivot option. So it could actually just spam Intimidate U-turn, and these things just come in and they could just come in. Landorus would just take the hit, and then these things would just come in, and they'll just start either just hitting like stuff for really hard damage, or they could just set up like Manaphy right there. So yeah. And lastly, cleaners are pretty nice to have because Landorus could just chip everything down if you're just a wall breaker or just set in general, and then these guys could just like the competition. So yeah. For checks and counters, it's pretty obvious that water types are pretty much needed, especially defensive ones, like let's say Suicune and Milo, Gastro, Jello. So the ones that the more physically defensive ones, the better. Like I'll give Milotic special credit because it has access to 2 abilities that really take on Landorus. One, Flame Body, well not Flame Body, but well Marble Scale. But in tandem with Flame Body makes it like take on like give it like a high defense stat. So and competitive just like gives it a +2 special attack for every like Intimidate. So that's pretty nice. Or any stat drop. So that's you're already getting a +2 Milotic and you're just gonna threaten this thing. And of course all of these guys have access to potential Ice Beam. So then you have the ice types themselves, more specifically Kyurem, Weavile, Mamoswine, Vanillux, and other stuff like let's say a Frostlass, Sneasel, Alolan Ninetales. Like either most of them outspeed Landorus-T or have Scarf or even have like Ice Shard. So Ice Shard itself is just pretty scary for Landorus because it'll just chip it down. It'll just like tear it down. Grass types, more specifically Tapu Bulu, Like Tangrowth, Ferrothorn, and Superior are pretty nice like checks and counters as well because Bulu just has grassy terrain. Tangrowth's pretty defensive, the same as Ferrothorn, and Superior can actually just glare it down, just paralyze it because Glare can actually work on ground types, so that's pretty nice. So flying type Pokemon are pretty okay counters if Landorus for some reason doesn't have a rock move. Like if they do have like rock moves, it really comes down to the set, like whether they have like let's say if it's a Swords Dance or like a Rock EMZ, like let's say, then they could like they're not safe. But if they don't have if Landorus doesn't have like a rock move, then yeah, Zapdos, Gera, Mandibuzz, and even Geiger can even take him on. So other defensive Pokemon and possible like mods to take on Landorus like Mew, Slowbro, Chestnut, and Rotom are pretty nice counters for checks. Like Mew could just burn and Ice Beam it. Same with Slowbro. And Chestnut, if it's not Z-Fly or Fly, it could just wall it for days and just get chip damage with Leaf Seed or Wood Hammer, or even Spike Up if it wants to. And Rotom can always burn it and go for Hydro Pumps, HP Ices, or whatever. So Levitate Pokemon are pretty nice, like to say Latias, Hydreigon, and Uxie. One thing I noticed about Levitate Pokemon is that they're either really bulky or really fast. Like let's say Latias, Latios, Hydreigon could outspeed Landorus-T and just fire an Ice Beam or Draco Meteor, or and there's something, or you just have something like Cresselia or Uxie that's just ridiculously fat, just being able to like take like any hit from Landorus. Though these guys got to be careful because they have access to Landorus has access to some very good coverage. Let's say like U-turn or even Superpower for like Hydra's case. So yeah, just gotta watch out for that. So then you have ground types. Now it might sound very weird at first saying that ground types deal well with Landorus, but if you think about it, Landorus can't really deal much back or is very scared of these guys because like Hippo can tank most of Landorus's hits and he can have access to Ice Fang or Toxic. And if it's especially like let's say something like let's say like let's say Scarf Landorus or Defensive Landorus, then yeah, you could just wall it for days. Same with Gliscor. Gliscor is by far like one of the better checks or counters to Landorus-T if it doesn't have Swords Dance. So you could just wear it down for like Toxic, Knockoff, or Facade. With Swords Dance yourself, and you just like chip it down. Seismitoad is a water type, and also other mons like Gastrodon and Swampert can just take on Landorus because they have Scald and Ice Beam. And Mudsteel has this honorable mention because if Landorus just smacks it, it's gonna get a stamina boost, and Stamina Mudsteel is pretty annoying to kill. So unless you're a Swords Dance Landorus or a Z variant, you're gonna have a tough time with Mudsteel. Especially if it's like if it keeps raising stamina. So, and then you have Intimidators and Whispers. Now most Intimidate mods, honestly, like Gera and Arcanine, like a concern like immense. They're actually weak to like Stone Edge or something like, or like our ground move in general. But if let's say if you're able to get some Intimidates and if Landorus is locked into a certain option, you could potentially set up with a Dragon Dance or just burn it in general. Like with Arcanine's case, so. Crafty can actually take it on, but you have to be very concerned with a Z move, like, or even Fly. Then you have the more reliable Whispers, like let's say Mew, Kofag, and Weezing. Like they actually they either have a very high defense stat, like have Levitate, or just tank any hit from Landorus and just OHKO it with either Hidden Power Ice or 2KO it, or just wall it in general. Like Kofag could even set up Trick Room just to reverse like the speeds if it tries to set up a Rock Polish, so you can just halt sweep right then and there. So, and Weezing, Landorus has to go for like +2, like Z Fly, just to attack this day. So, but if you get burnt and it has haze, then yeah, it's gonna be really difficult to break. So, then you have bulky steels, which this is more in particular like the steel types that aren't weak to ground, like Celesteela, like Skarmory, Bronzong, and Scizor. These guys actually just like since they wall like ground ground for days, and like Z Fly isn't gonna do much to these guys except for Scizor, And then not only that, Landorus needs to set up first of all, and these guys could either just do whatever they need to do, like set up a Leaf Seed, Toxic it, or even just go for damage, like for the other Pokemon to just take it out with it priority, or like, or if they're just naturally fast. So yeah, they just have the defenses to take them Landorus on, like, or whatever. So special attackers are also another thing with Landorus because since it has a very low special, like, or not special, but special like defense of 80, like, which is somewhat like below average now and compared to Gen 7 standards. And not only that, its speed is also very comparable. So very fast special attackers like Latios, Landorus-T, Wello, and even Alakazam could just take on Landorus, especially like Alakazam if it has access to Focus Sash. Like, you could just, like, even if you really want to beat that guy, you could just go for counter, like Focus Sash counter or something like that. So, or you just go like for the hidden power eyes and just Magic Guard like Sash. So, Wello with the specs like Boom Burst just kills Landorus, and then Thundurus and Latios are just self-explanatory. And then all these other Pokemon in the bottom are just gonna outspeed like Landorus no matter what. So, like, especially those that are above base 90, even, like, since Landorus speed is just base, it's just above base 90, but it's just built, it's too, like, low to the point where, like, a lot of common threats like again, Thundurus, Tornadus, like Gren, Victini, Manaphy, like Kyurem, Kartana, even like OG stuff like Starmie, and even like the newer like threats like, you know, Gallade and level Ninetales and other reliable physical attackers like Lopunny, especially those that have Ice Punch. They're just gonna kill it. Landorus just outspeed it if it doesn't have Scarf. So yeah. So final thoughts. I will say that like Landorus is a very strong. It's still a strong offensive threat, and it's very all round with a high attack stat, and it's pretty customizable to build. It's and very versatile as well. So you could just build exactly what kind of Landorus set you need to do. So for you to build. So and it's benefited amazingly with the introduction of Z move options. So and even then, like, its Z move like potential is pretty amazing because like when you have a Pokemon that has 145 attack with access to Sword Stance and Rock Polish and any other setup options, Landorus is gonna just has the potential to wall break or just take on one Pokemon at a time. So, or take out that one key target. So, and again, it can perform with different variety of roles, whether it's a defensive pivot, offensive scarf, or offensive Z, or even a special set. So it's pretty like diverse enough to know to like use. So, and despite that, like, I will admit that Landorus isn't impossible to beat. It's a great Pokemon in the Draft League format and anything because it's very splashable. But the problem with it is that it has a major weakness to ice and water. So set Pokemon, or even the typings themselves, coverage options will just nuke down Landorus because of course like special ice moves are just gonna kill Landorus because of that quad weakness, and then water just, especially those that have Scald, just has the potential to burn it. So, and even then, like, I think the real issue here with Landorus is that now these days is that its base 91 speed isn't cutting anymore. So there's a lot of, and it's basically to do with power creep itself because with a lot of new mons like Katana and also Z move options in general, like all these other Pokemon have access to their own Z moves, and like they just they're gonna outspeed Landorus, and they're just gonna like kill it within or just force it out in general. So it's still really good Pokemon to build around, and it's kind of fun Pokemon to use if you have the chance to like draft it. So I will say overall, it's a great Pokemon to draft. It's one of probably like the top 10 draft mon, but it's definitely one of those mons that like you have to know what you're doing just to like figure out like how to use it. So, or especially when it comes to the matchups. So anyways, that's all I'm gonna have for today regarding Landorus-T. So hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown draft analysis for Landorus-T. anyways, I'll be catching you guys later for like in the next following 2 weeks. So hopefully, I'll try to do another lower tier mon aside like all the other let's say high tier mons I've been doing lately. So alright, so I'll see you guys again. So see ya.